recording this. If you're in this class, you may not be going to be like a math major, right? And I think that brings about an important point. Like, I don't expect all of you to be like professional mathematicians, right? Obviously, not a realistic sort of expectation. I would like for that to happen, but it's not a realistic expectation. But the very least, I hope if you take something away from this class, it is the quote, like unquote, like think like a mathematician, right? And part of that is to understand this logic, because math is really one of the first sort of places where we get to see this logic being applied. It's one of the first places we get to see these relations in applying logic. And if I'm being honest, like if you get to higher math, I don't know what y'all's perception of math is. I know there's a lot of different perceptions of math. But if you get into higher math, almost all we are doing is applying logic. We're not doing a lot of stuff with a lot of big numbers. It's like not a lot of number stuff that we're doing. Like about the only numbers we use are for indices on variables. It's really kind of, we're not using numbers like a whole lot. We're using a lot of weird concepts, and we're applying a lot of sort of really conceptual stuff. I don't know. It gets pretty crazy. And y'all will probably see that when we get more into the logic stuff. So hopefully y'all went over 1A. It is about logical fallacies. So we start off talking about like more like improper ways of reasoning things. 1B, we're going to talk about logical connectors. That's where we're going with this. We're going to talk about propositions. We're going to talk about and statements, or statements, and if-then statements in 1B. And then 1C, we will get into Venn diagrams. And then 1D, we will get into analyzing arguments, using everything. We're going to put everything together that we used in 1A, B, and C, and we're going to like start actually analyzing arguments. And that, I think by the time we get to 1D, hopefully it'll make that a little more obvious, like why we're studying like this stuff in a math class. Because that's basically, we're going to get to the more mathy stuff in there, I guess. I consider this to be more mathy than the other stuff, if I'm being honest. But everyone's coming at this from a different experience. So any questions? I think I need to pop this thing up. Where is it? Start this thing. Oh, I got 0 participants. Okay, let me share my screen. I'm getting a little bit behind today, I think. But I got quizzes, so if you go to join my quiz, you can go and we can do this homework, and we can get this homework done kind of together and talk about what's happening. If I'm being honest, this section is a bit weird. Like it's not, the homework is a challenge. I don't know what to say besides that. It takes you a second to think about these sorts of things. They're not sort of things that come super quick, at least not for me. Are y'all seeing the screen?
Yes, we see it.
All right. If I copy the link, that would probably also help y'all. I will copy that into the chat in just a second. I'm trying to move this thing around so it's not in the way of this. I got little bubbles on my screen. Oh no, it's privately. I'm going to send it to everyone. All right, so it is in the chat if you want to join. Wait for y'all to join, and I'm going to join too. Three, four, seven, 3, 5, 8. It was lagging a little bit last time when I did my other class, but it's worked pretty well. I think it kept them. I think it keeps y'all interacting with it pretty well. And if you want to go by your name, that's probably like a good thing to do. If I ever give y'all, and go look back at who is doing stuff, and if I ever give y'all extra credit or anything, I might have a little more reason to justify it if I see your name on here. Just say go by your name. I don't think you have to sign up for this, do you? Just like a quick put in your name thing. I could be wrong. We're at 26. All right, so you can always join after the fact. I think we're going to go ahead and start this. I think there's 1 or 2 people, maybe. There's 27, which means we're 1 short. Okay. Is this how you do full screen? Oh, that's how you do full screen. Okay. Can anyone see this? Are we ready?
Yep.
All right. All right, I'm going to stop it when it does a timer, I think. And I'm going to turn off this music. Like, that is the worst thing to, like, think with. It's just, like, this pulsating music. Like, it's like the Jeopardy theme. Like, as soon as you hear it.
Yeah, music always distracts me. I'm like, stop it. I need to focus here.
Yeah, it's not good. Where did my little screen go to? Okay, here we go. Okay, so this, they want us to do, identify the premise and identify the conclusion. So I think with the way that I have this set up, it's either going to be the first and the last one or the middle 2. Those are the ones that are different. So your conclusion is sort of like the thing, like they're saying overall, and the premise is the reason why they're saying it. And 2 of these should be something that you're selecting. You should be selecting 2 of them. Let's see if I get it right. Okay. Is there a way to make it like, yeah, that's what I want.
I got it in like all 4 of them were basically 2 answers. Like 2 were duplicates and then the other 2 were 2 duplicates of a different sentence.
They say premise and they say P and C, so that P means premise, the C means conclusion. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So one of them should be your premise, one of them should be your conclusion.
Okay.
So I know like it repeats, but like they're different.
Oh.
If that makes sense.
I may have missed that.
Yeah, it's all right. We'll go over it again. It'll come up. That's why we're doing it. It's homework. This is the stuff you can miss, right? It's like when we get to the quiz, then I'd worry about it a bit more. And then if we get to the test and you're not getting it, then it's really not good. But all right, where are we at? 2 people? 2 people? Did you fall asleep? Are we getting it? And I think the way that these are set up, it's either going to be like the first one and the last one, or it's going to be the middle 2 because I just repeated things. All right, we're 2 people away, I think. Hoping you aren't just like clicking these like wild rabbits. I think I'm going to hit end question. So if you haven't submitted, go ahead and do that. Okay. Okay, so how many people got it? I think quite a few people got it. Okay, so what is my conclusion is that they are the best, right? That's my conclusion. I'm saying they are the best. The thing that I'm basing that on is because they are selling the most. Are there any questions? Okay. The premise is the thing that you're basing the conclusion on. It's your reasoning. So if we look here, if we say the conclusion is that they outsell more, why would they outsell more? We're not saying that they outsell more because they are the best. We're saying they are the best because they outsell more. Just the way that the sentence is set up. And a bit like in the like phrasing in the sentence up here. Like Apple's iPhones outsell all over other smartphones. So is like another thing that kind of indicates that this is probably going to be your conclusion. You're like saying, so this is what you're deducing, right? This is like the conclusion that you're deducing. Dun, 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 dun. Turn the timer off. Okay, appeal to popularity. So is this one where they want you to make one of your own? It cuts it off on here for some reason. I'm on my computer, but it doesn't on your phone or on your mobile device, whatever you're using.
It's saying like describe how it started.
I gotta refresh. It says, briefly describe how the stated fallacy occurs in the argument. So this is a bit of an open-ended question. So just write something. There you go. Because Apple outsells all over smartphones. So how is this an appeal to popularity is what they want to know. Large numbers. So you're talking about large numbers as in like the large sales. There's a large amount of people that like it, right? I'm hoping that's what we're going with. They outsell all of the smartphones. That's the popularity part, right? And because they're popular, they're making some sort of conclusion off of that.
I think it's because they say it's the best smartphone on the market. That's basically saying like we're the most popular. You should buy this phone.
Okay, so they're concluding that it's the best smartphone on the market, but the reasoning behind it is that the fact that it outsells other stuff, right? And this outselling is like the popularity thing. Like most people buy an iPhone or something along that line, right? It's the most popular phone to buy. And then from that, you're concluding other things. It's this sort of like everyone's doing it sort of excuse, right? Well, everyone's buying an iPhone, so therefore I must buy an iPhone. Or therefore they're the best iPhone. Okay, so I think, where are we at? 23? I think we pretty much touched on it. I don't think y'all get... If you want to submit something, go ahead. I'm not sure. I don't think, next slide, here we go. I don't think it gives you a any points for those ones, to be honest. Okay, so it does show you your response on there though, which is kind of nice. Okay, so this one is, I guess this is what they put in the back of the book. So the fact that many people buy the iPhone doesn't mean that they are the best, right? And then I guess I copied and pasted it twice. The fact that many people buy the iPhone does not necessarily mean that they are the best. Okay. Questions about this? I think. Okay. make up another argument that has the same sort of fallacy. So I think we've said maybe something. I don't know. Does anybody have an example? I think mine in the notes was what Dunkin' Donuts sells the most coffee, therefore they must be the best coffee or something like that.
Tesla sells the most electric cars, therefore they must be the best electric car company.
Yeah, that's good.
McDonald's sells the most food, therefore it must be the best.
Yeah.
McDonald's cannot be stopped.
All right, so I think I pretty much got this one. Everyone's doing it, therefore it must be safe. I think this is the general, like, sort of like the DARE approach, right? That was like one of the worst programs they put out there. It did like the exact opposite of what they wanted it to do. I think it's still out there. And did they make y'all do that? The DARE?
The what?
The DARE, drug abuse resistance education.
No, I never did that.
Yeah. It like apparent. I don't know. From my understanding, it like really kind of backfired and didn't really do what they wanted it to do. But they called that the bandwagon, is what they called it. It was like, that was like the late 90s when I was in middle school. All right, 2 people are still sleeping. Where are you at? Pick a set solution. Okay, I think I'm going with it. One person, hurry up. All right, so what do we got? Which one's the premise? Which one's the conclusion? How y'all do? Oh, look at there. How's this? I don't understand this distribution. How's there 4 people selecting this one, but 1 selecting that one? Y'all should be selecting 2 of them.
You can select both, like, you can select matching ones. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you gotta pick either, like, and it's gonna be like pretty much the way I have it set up for all these questions. I'm not trying to make things confusing. Is either gonna be the first and the last or the middle 2. Like, that's pretty much gonna be your solutions for these, I think. Okay, so it's gonna be the first and the last one. Those are the ones that are different. Okay, so what are we concluding? We're concluding that there's no life out there. Why are we concluding there's no life out there? We're concluding there's no life. The premise is that we haven't found any, basically, right? We've searched and we haven't found any. So why is this an appeal to ignorance, I think, is the next question. And here, what do they mean like ignorance? What do they mean by ignorance? Yeah, because we haven't found it, right? That's where the ignorance is coming in. There's a lack of data, something along those lines. We haven't looked in enough places. That's a good argument as to why this could be wrong. Yep. But the thing that I'd really focus on this one is that lack of data that's happening there. So I know I'm going through a little quick. But the thing that I'd really focus on, like I said, is the decades of searching haven't revealed anything. The conclusion is, therefore, there's no life. And you like hinted at like what's wrong with it. So all these are everything that we're going over today is pretty much everything we're going over today is a fallacy, right? It shouldn't make sense. It should be something wrong with it, right? There is something wrong with it. It shouldn't make sense. We don't have a lot of information, right? You're basing it off of ignorance of what is going on out there, right? Because we lack evidence of aliens doesn't mean that there aren't aliens. I think is the same thing, right? So I think the next thing is we need to come up with an example. So I'm going to hit this pretty quick. But this is, I think, is what the back of the book says. Appeal to ignorance. Failure to find life on other planets does not imply that life does not exist elsewhere in the universe. So just because we haven't found it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And now I want to think about an example. So come up with an example that is like an appeal to ignorance. I think in the notes I did what, the library book?
I got one.
Yeah, the library one. No withdraws, therefore he didn't take the book.
Yeah.
Mount Everest wasn't discovered until 1852, and I'm pretty sure the mountain was still there.
The what wasn't discovered until 1852?
Mount Everest wasn't discovered until 1852, but I'm pretty sure the mountain was still there.
Yeah. Just because you discovered a mountain doesn't mean it ain't there. Yep. That's a good one. I never heard that one. All right. Any questions? I think that pretty much covers this one. Like, just because you don't have evidence of it doesn't mean it ain't there. Yeah. Sometimes I hear this in the theist argument, right? It's like just because we don't have evidence. Okay, disabling that. I plead the fifth. He refused to testify by invoking the Fifth Amendment, so he must be guilty. Sync up. Okay. What are you trying to say overall, and then what are you basing that off of? Like, what is your reasoning? So your reasoning would be your premise. Your conclusion is sort of your overall statement, the thing that you're generalizing and trying to put forth, right? Or the thing you're deducing. Got two people. Keep an eye, okay. All right, there's one person. I'm gonna hit the end. If you submit it, you can get it in there. I think one person probably just like logged in and fell asleep or something. I don't know. There's always like one person. There's still like an uneven distribution here. Okay. He refused to testify. So you're concluding that he is guilty, right? And you're concluding that he is guilty based on the fact that he invoked the Fifth Amendment. He didn't invoke the Fifth Amendment because he was guilty. Well, he might have, but we don't know that. Okay, and then the next part is describe how this is, what is it? Limited choice. Okay, so this is limited choice. If you limit the choice between two things, sometimes they call that a false dichotomy. There's other options outside of this, yes. He could also be not guilty, that's true. And I think this one was just like either you're like, oh man, was that what the book uses? Either you're a patriot and you support the president, or either you don't support the president and you're not a patriot. I think that's what they did for limited choice, but maybe I'm wrong. That would be another example of limited choice. Yeah, but basically the thing is you're limiting the choice between, like, if you invoke the Fifth Amendment, then that means you must be guilty, right? And we know that that's not true because there's another choice out there. So that's what limiting the choice means, is like you're precluding other options, I think is what the book says. And so we're throwing out other options that are possibilities. And so he refused to testify by invoking his Fifth Amendment, so he must be guilty. We know this isn't true because he could be not guilty, basically. So we have thrown out the option that he could have invoked it and been not guilty. There's other reasons why you might want to invoke the Fifth Amendment. Maybe he's not guilty of the thing they're questioning him of, but maybe he's guilty of something else. Who knows? Hopefully not. But yeah. And so this is what the book says about it. Conclusion is stated as if it were the only possible conclusion. So they said he was guilty as if that was the only possibility. He could have been not guilty. Okay, so we want to make up another argument that exhibits the same sort of fallacy. I could think of something. So what's something that might be like a limited choice? What's something have y'all heard false dichotomies or false binaries? Is what they call them if there's two choices. So what's an example?
I'm stumped. I have no idea. I can't think of any.
If you don't want to go to the library, then you're gonna have to go to the park.
Yeah, that's a good one. There's other places you can go.
There's a wet spot on the rug. It must have been the dog.
Yeah, so you're precluding other choices, absolutely. Yep, he doesn't like vanilla, therefore he must like chocolate. Yep, there's other things. I don't know. When I think about false binaries, I think about, like, the male-female sex. Like, there are intersex people out there, and they kind of get written out of a lot of stuff. It's just like, oh man. But yeah, they kind of get written out of a lot of stuff, and we kind of pretend like they don't exist sometimes. But that would be a false binary, right? The book does that quite a bit. That's why I was thinking about it. I didn't write the book. Let's just put it that way. But I think for the most part, I think the book has good stuff in it. There's just a few parts I would update it if I had to do it myself. Personal tax. So Senator Smith's bill on agricultural policy is a sham because he has accepted contributions from companies that sell genetically modified crop seeds. So what are we trying to say overall about the senator? And why are we saying that about him? Oh man, there's a key word right there that's really giving you the cause. Where can you find homework? Is that what you're asking? Sometimes I don't see messages right away if you type them out. If you yell them out at me, I'll see them quicker. Your homework is, if you click on the syllabus, it shows you, it gives you a list of all the problems that we're doing. And they are the same as the problems that we're going over right now. Okay. So I think that's everyone but 2 people. Ooh, okay. I think most people are getting these things correctly, but we're saying that the bill is a sham because he accepted these contributions, right? We're not saying he accepted the contributions because his bill was a sham. And the key word here is the because, right? That is telling you the cause of this thing. So anytime they're saying because, you can almost guarantee that like what follows after that's going to be their reasoning or their premises behind things, right? So he has accepted contributions from this. This gives reasoning behind calling his bill a sham. And like, I would say like, you know, biases are a real thing, right? So that probably does show his bias. But that's also like, this is also sort of that thing, you're arguing the person and not the point is what some people call it sometimes, right? And so how is this a personal attack? And that's kind of what I'm getting at here, arguing the person and not a point. What does that mean? All these noises are super distracting, personally. It's like, okay. So with the personal attack, they're arguing the person and not the point. So if we wanted to argue the point, what would we argue? We argue something about something that's actually on the physical bill itself, right? And so instead of actually attacking something that is on this bill itself or anything in the policy that he's actually writing, what we're doing is we're attacking him for something completely kind of different, something that he took contributions from these large companies. Yeah, it's arguing against the senator and his actions that don't really have to do with the bill themselves. And he could still accept money maybe from large companies, and he could still write a decent agricultural bill, right? There's still things that maybe, even if you don't agree with the companies and even everything, right? There's probably something that you do agree with. There's probably some common ground that you could find. It's directed at the senator and not the bill itself. I think I saw that somewhere on there. These are all good sort of responses. I'm going to skip ahead. I know I'm probably going a little quick. Okay. So this is what the back of the book says. It's a claim about the senator's personal behavior, and it's used to criticize the bill. And then I guess I copy and pasted that twice for some reason. I think that automatically paste it twice sometimes. It kind of glitches a little bit. Okay. So now we want to come up with something else that is a personal attack. So anybody think about anything? There's something that like really kind of pops to the front, or some sort of like little cliche that I think about. Anybody have an example? These are the ones that take the time, I feel like. They make you think about it.
My brother is loud because he is always playing with his friends.
My brother is what? Can you repeat that again?
Always loud. Because he is always playing with his friends.
I think usually when you do a personal attack, it's usually something that's a little more like malicious, I want to say.
I think it just needs to be reworded. I hate the game I hate the friends my brother plays with because he is loud.
Well, he's always playing games, so.
I hate the game he's playing because he's loud whenever he plays it.
Maybe.
My brother is loud, therefore he is a bad person.
Oh my god.
That would be like yeah, that would be a personal attack. Like
The video games my brother plays make him a terrible person.
yeah, that would be a good personal attack. Like you're not actually arguing about the video game, right? You're arguing about
My brother plays video games, therefore his cooking is awful.
My brother is rude because he's always loud.
Yeah, it's usually like you're arguing a point that a person is putting forward, right? You're arguing against something that someone's putting forward usually. And so what I really think about, like the cliche sort of example of like, you know, the scientist that can't even like keep up with himself, right? It's like, are we supposed to believe like all these theories he's putting forth when he can't even take a shower and brush his own teeth, you know, sort of thing? There's that mad genius that doesn't have the basic skills, sort of cliche thing, right? The mad genius. Yeah, I mean these are hard to think about, huh? I would say maybe like saying that your brother is up to no good because he's loud and annoying. Maybe that might be a good personal attack.
That would actually be accurate.
Yeah. But him being loud and annoying doesn't necessarily mean that he's up to no good, right? That's like you're taking it a step beyond what the information actually gives you.
That is also true.
Yeah, and so that's the important thing, is that you're like making this sort of like fallacy step in there, that it shouldn't, that like the thing that you say on this actually shouldn't make sense, right? I'm trying to make you stop making sense is what I'm trying to do, right? His old Talking Heads album. All right. I got neighbors in case y'all hear that. Okay, what are we doing now? 819. Good grades are needed to get into college, and a college diploma is necessary for a successful career. Therefore, attendance should count in high school grades. So what am I concluding? What is my premise on this guy? And there's like this one word in here that's really sticking out. What's the word I'm talking about?
Is it therefore?
It is exactly therefore. Therefore is telling you that this next thing should be your what?
Conclusion?
That's absolutely your conclusion. All right, so what do we got? A few people. Y'all gonna cheat on it right quick before I hit end? Hurry up. Oh, okay. I didn't want to do it too quick. Oh, look at that. You'll probably change it after I said it. I don't know if you can. Can you go back and change it?
No,
No,
you
once you hit submit, it's locked in.
Oh, man. Turn off that timer. Good grades are needed to get into college. Okay, so we want to explain how this is a diversion. So how is this a diversion? And we know this is our conclusion. What does our conclusion have to do with our premise?
Is it the grades?
It does say something about grades, but what does it say about attendance? What does our premise say about attendance?
It doesn't say anything.
It doesn't say anything. So where's this attendance coming from?
It's a diversion.
It's a complete diversion. It's coming from out of nowhere. Nowhere in there did we talk about attendance. Good grades are needed to get into college. Okay. You're making assumptions about attendance, and you're probably correct about those assumptions. If you attend, you're probably going to make good grades. But that's nowhere in our premise, right? And so they're throwing this third sort of factor into there, right? We have all these other factors, good grades, and getting into college, and college in a successful career. And then kind of out of nowhere, they just throw in this other factor that we didn't talk about. And they say, well, there's 4 you should have attended. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, they're just kind of pulling in attendance. The premise and the conclusion don't really have to deal with each other so much. Something along those lines. I think we pretty much got it. What's people doing? Okay, diversion, the premise, which is often true, directs attention away from the conclusion. And it's repeated because for some reason all my copy and pastes got repeated. This is from the book. This is what the book said. So this is pretty much what we were saying. They start talking about attendance. There's nothing to talk about attendance with. This one you can pretty much have fun with. So come up with something that's a diversion. I should pass this class because the sky is blue, right? It doesn't have to make sense at all. Anybody have a silly example?
I'm trying to think.
These are weird things to come up with. Like I'm not gonna lie. This is a weird section where you actually have to like.
I should be an actor because I watch TV.
Good job.
Yay.
Apples are disgusting because my hamster died last week.
Wait a minute. Did you legit have a hamster that died last week? If so, I'm sorry.
I did not. I've never owned a hamster.
Oh.
My dogs are sleeping.
He has never owned a hamster, therefore hates animals.
Yeah, that almost sounds like, yeah. And with some of these, I don't think they're super obvious where they fall into either. Like it could kind of fall into that. Like I think that last thing you just said was a diversion, but I would also probably say it's like a precluding false dichotomy sort of thing. What do we call it? I can't even think of the word now.
If the nightmare was about oysters, I think we could say it might have been.
I didn't hear that. Could you repeat that?
The nightmare they had was about oysters. It might be true.
Yeah. Ate oysters for dinner, and later I had a nightmare. Therefore, wait, I almost said the word. Oysters caused my nightmare. After I almost just said that word, I hope that should like hint what it is. So if I can put therefore in front of something, it's like my conclusion, right? It's the thing I'm drawing. If I say therefore, this thing happened. If I can put because in front of something, that's going to be like my premise. I don't know if that's going to help y'all. We're on 25. Okay, I'm going to hit it really slowly. There's like 3 people. Okay, seems like most people are getting it. Therefore, oysters cause my nightmare. So that would be your conclusion. And you're concluding that because I ate oysters and I had a nightmare once. Oh, excuse me. And so is this the limited sample? What do they call it? There's another word they would use. Correlation does not imply causation. That's a good observation. Explain why this is deceptive. Okay, so I think we're getting into a different section in the book, in the homework. I don't think they tell us which one this is, but I could be wrong. Maybe I just didn't put it on there. There could have been other factors that caused it. Absolutely. This is why it's deceptive. Whew, forgot to hit the time on that one. Sorry about that.
I was too busy thinking. I didn't even get to put in words.
Yeah, my bad. I didn't hit the time on it. I usually stop the timer. Okay, so I ate oysters for dinner and later I had a nightmare. So this is the false cause one, I think is what they call it. Is that what it's called?
Limited choice.
And why would you say it's limited choice? Because I think that these are the ones where we have to give. They're asking. Is that what they're asking for? They're asking for. They're asking for the type of fallacy. Yeah, that's what these ask for. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar to the one that said he's automatically guilty because he pled to the Fifth Amendment.
Mm-hmm. So you're limiting the choice that like maybe other things caused his nightmares. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say yeah, like that would be fine. And like I said, there's if I'm being honest, I don't think there's like one sort of correct answer for the fallacy or the type of fallacy it is. A lot of these are just bad ways of thinking, like, and they fall into like multiple of these, and it all kind of depends how you justify it. There are proper ways to justify it, and there are probably improper ways to justify it, right? But if you said something like that, it's limited choice because they're limiting out other, or they're precluding other options that might have caused the nightmare. I think that's fine. I think the book also causes this a false cause. Is that what it's called? I think in the back or something. I'm about to look at it. Yeah, false causes, I think is what it's called. And what that means is basically you're attributing something like nightmares to something that it may or may not have been. And it goes back to that sort of thing, like correlation does not imply causation. Just because if I flip a light switch and it starts thundering outside, right? Those two things correlated, but flipping the light switch did not cause the lightning outside. It was just a coincidence. So coincidences absolutely do happen in life. It could just be a coincidence that you had oysters on the same night that you had a nightmare. It could be another factor that caused your nightmare.
Looks like
all these things are sort of, yeah. And that's what the book says, right? I would absolutely give you 100% if you told me limited choice, and it's limited choice because it limits out other factors. Like, you are 100% correct. A lot of these, it's just going to be kind of how you justify it. But I don't know. If I told you this was false cause, you should know what that means, right? You should know why the book is saying it's false cause. It should make sense why they're calling it a false cause, right? It shouldn't just like kind of strike you out of the blue. Like, there's no way that could be. No. Questions? I'll hit the timer on the next one so we have a little more time. Okay. Right. What's the premise here and what is the conclusion? Oh, I remember which one they say for this one. All right, so we got two people. Are those the same two people? Yep. All right. So I think we're going to proceed. We're out of time. About a few minutes. Okay, so is this, oh man, I hate how it cuts it off. So I believe this is the one that's asking for the same thing now, right? What is wrong with this argument and like what sort of category does it fit into that the book talks about? I skipped right past that solution thing, didn't I? So the conclusion is that women are better qualified for medical jobs. They're basing that on the fact that all the nurses in this one hospital are women. Appeal to popularity, I think that one's good. I can understand why you'd say it's appeal to popularity. That seems like a good thing to say. Okay, hasty generalization because it's, I'm sorry, what was that?
What's the one with ignorance?
Appeal to ignorance?
Oh, appeal to ignorance, my bad.
Yeah, so if you're going to say appeal to ignorance, why would you say this is appeal to ignorance? I'd like to hear that.
Well, for one, they're only judging it on this one hospital.
Mm-hmm. So they don't have, yeah, so they don't have data of the other hospitals, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like.
Or they don't have any kind of data on what would make someone better qualified for a medical job, right?
Yeah.
You really have a lot of ignorance there. I could see it. I could see appeal to ignorance. I could see.
They're only basing it on one hospital. That's only one source of information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There could be other reasons. I think the book says something about that too, right? That there being confounding factors, something along those lines.
That's just my opinion, because that's what it sounds like.
A lot of people are saying the book says hasty generalization is what they're saying.
Oh, that sounds even better.
And hasty generalization, when I think about this, I always think about that episode of Futurama.
Oh, Futurama. I love that show.
With the nurses. So you use nurses at one hospital to talk about nurses for all hospitals. So you're using one to talk about everything, right? So your sample size is like one hospital. That's not a very large sample size when we think about there's probably millions of hospitals out there.
Mm-hmm.
I always think about that one episode of Futurama with the actor whose face they can't see. And then Bender shows it to someone and it's like one person and they like turn into a sack of whatever. And he shows it to two people and he's like, that's only two people. Better not to jump into any conclusions, right? Don't want to make any hasty generalizations there. Okay, so it probably depends upon the consequences of the thing you're doing too, right? But Okay, so Senator is a member of NRA, so I'm sure she opposes a ban on large capacity magazines for ammo. This one, I feel like there's one that really jumps out. But let's do premise and conclusion first. She opposes. Where am I at? 28. And there's still two people that are falling asleep. All right, so where are we at on here? Are we getting this one? I think for the most part, you're only getting the premise and conclusion at this point. Yeah, and what fallacy is this? There's one that like really jumps out.
Personal attack.
Yeah, that's the one I would really say this one really jumps out as. And so why is it a personal attack?
Because it's mostly focused on this senator.
Yeah, like it's focused on personal attributes about the senator, right? It's about the senator, she being a member of the NRA. And so therefore they're concluding something about her policy, right? Instead of actually talking about the policy or what we might see in this policy or anything directed at this policy directly, right? We're talking about roundabout, we're talking about the person themselves and attributes about them. So yeah, I would say it's a personal attack. I would say it's a personal attack for all those things I just sort of said. And questions? I don't want to spend a lot more time on this. I want to try to get through this stuff. All right, I think I'm going to end it. And it's a fallacy because we can't do it, right? Because it's not a good thing to do. She could be a part of the NRA and absolutely not support the ban on large capacity.
They said it's straw man.
Did they say that? They said straw man. Okay. Yeah, I would say it's a personal attack. Probably more so.
Yeah, it seemed more like a personal attack.
That's what I thought. But straw man, if you justify straw man, why would it be straw man? Because instead of arguing about like the policy that she's putting forth, they're turning the argument into her being a member of the NRA, right? They're changing it. They're changing the argument. That's what the straw man means.
But I feel like it does have a correlation, the two things. So it is a personal attack?
I would say it's a personal attack. I could see like why you're saying that there's a correlation because this would indicate maybe like a bias. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like
yeah, I could see that. Like I don't think that's completely unreasonable, right? But with that said, is it still possible that she could be a member of the club and still support the ban? Is this still a possibility that she could be in the club and support the ban on the magazine? Yeah, so this is still a possibility. And so with logic, we like stuff that always gets us to the truth, right? And so since this is still like a possible thing, it's not true that like this thing dictates the other thing, right? Does that make a little more sense? Like it's not always the truth that someone that's in the NRA will oppose that ban.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Thank you.
And so like, yeah, I can see why you would say like maybe that makes sense a little bit, right? With the biases and things of that nature. Like I don't completely disagree that like maybe there's a little bit of a point there. But the thing is it's not a sound sort of way to reason things, right? there's a possibility that we could be wrong. And that's what you kind of have to open yourself up to, I think. It's not wrong to make sort of assumptions or, but we have to make sure those assumptions are light and that we keep our mind open, I think, is kind of the underlying thing here. That like, it's not a valid way to reason something, right? It's not always going to get you to the truth if we assume that people here are going to do this thing. There's always an oddball. And it's usually me. Consider the following fallacies which are not discussed in your text. Explain why the fallacy applies to the example and create your own argument that displays the same fallacy. Who does it say it? It cuts it off on the screen. I don't like that.
It says the slippery slope fallacy has this form. Premise X has occurred and is related to Y. Conclusion Y will inevitably occur.
Okay, yeah. The slippery slope fallacy has the form. The premise, X has occurred and is related to Y. Conclusion, Y will inevitably occur. And the example that they give is America has sent troops to 3 countries recently. Before you know it, we will have troops everywhere. And why is that a fallacy? Why is that like not work?
It says create your own.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll create our own in a second. Yeah, just because they sent troops to a few countries doesn't mean that they're going to send troops everywhere, right? We could absolutely send troops to 3 countries and no more, something like that. Not that we ever do that, but it is something that is possible in reality, right? Probably not very probable with the people we put in charge, but it is possible in reality. This one, what if you want to create one of your own? So now if we want to create one of your own, what would you say for a slippery slope argument?
Due to global warming, the world will get warmer and warmer. The ice caps to melt, which will flood.
Yeah, I would say like that might be a bit of a slippery slope argument. We don't actually know necessarily what's going to happen. But like, I think that one of the things that might make that like not a slippery slope argument is that we kind of do understand the mechanisms behind global warming or global temperature changes.
Are we just making our own now?
Throwing it out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good sort of thing. It's a good example, but
Are we making our own?
yeah. So making your own slippery slope.
I heard my friend sneeze earlier. They must have COVID.
Yeah, like he sneezed, so therefore he must have something more drastic. And there are good ways to argue this, but a bad way to argue that you shouldn't turn in late homework is like maybe like, well, if I allow you to turn it in, then I have to allow everyone to turn it in late, right? So that would be like a slippery slope argument in regards to accepting late work that you might hear from your professor. The other thing with that is like, what does I say? The other one I can really think about off the top of my head is the sort of gateway drug argument, right? People that do this substance are more likely to do harder substances. And like most of the research that if you look at it, it actually indicates that people that do the harder substances are more likely to do the lighter substances. It's completely possible that people just like maybe drink a beer or smoke cannabis, right? And don't go any further than that, right? And so there's a sort of like slippery slope fallacy within that sort of thing as well. Okay. It's like, man, y'all didn't take dare. Y'all didn't get to listen to all these sort of arguments they make. That's where a lot of this stuff reminds me of stuff they would say in there. Some of it they had good points on. Some of it was not the most well-reasoned stuff. Evaluating media information. Oh man, is this the last one? This is slide 32. All right. So I think this is the last one. If you look, it says choose a current topic or policy discussion. So find something out there. Find a website that argues one side or the other. And then there are the 5 sort of things. So I want you to go home. Well, I guess you're probably already home. But anyway, I want you to go out there, go on the wonderful wide web of the internet, and find an article and discuss, consider the source, check the date, validate accuracy, watch for hidden agendas, and don't miss the big picture. All right, so y'all don't need to type in anything here. This is something I want you to go out there and do. This is your last homework problem. I think I gave y'all like 5 minutes is where we're at till the end of class. So are there any questions over anything we've done today? I think this is the final slide. Let's exit the lesson. What does it say? Wolfgang, got number 1.
Yes, I win.
I was third for a little bit.
Oh, a lot of y'all got the same thing though. So a lot of them are tied.
Well, I tried.
Boop, boop, boop. There we go. Let's exit out of this. Let me stop my share. And if there's any questions, I will take questions now. I want y'all to finish up this homework, write it out nice and neat. Use your little Genius Scan app, go take a picture of it, send it, load it up to homework 1A. Can y'all hear that? No? Okay. Someone's revving their motorcycle in the parking lot or something. It's a little loud. But I don't think y'all can hear it. Okay, so finish up the homework for 1A. Get out of this. Submit it, and then watch the lecture for 1B. So if you're going to skip any lecture in this class, I wouldn't skip any lecture in this class. But if you're going to do it, definitely don't let it be this like the next 2 or 3 of them, I would say. Like, usually math classes kind of build on themselves, but in this class, we kind of go all over the place. So there's not quite as much build as like there might be in like an algebra class is what I would say. And so we start off with all this logic stuff. It is a bit different. It's going to require some time coming up in the beginning of the semester. If you find this stuff difficult, I don't know what to say. It is difficult. So I can't say it's not difficult, but stick around. Maybe some of the other stuff we may not find as difficult. I don't know. It all depends upon the person, and it all depends upon, being quite honest, how much they participate in class. A lot of it's